We discuss domestic violence and child abuse awareness with a survivor. Plus, we discuss end-of-life services and support that offers comfort. It's all here on the next Latino Motion. Join us.
Choose to get lost in the woods to gain experience in forest management.
Choose to travel through time to understand the past.
Choose to soar to pursue a career in dance.
Stockton University offers 50 high-quality academic programs, small class sizes, and affordable tuition. Choose to match your interests and talents at one of New Jersey's nationally ranked universities.
Latino Motion with Bert Lopez is presented by Latino Motion Public Affairs Media, a New Jersey nonprofit corporation, and Stockton University. This edition of Latino Motion with Bert Lopez is brought to you by the HD Studios at the campus of Stockton University. Funding for Latino Motion is provided by Atlanticare, a member of Geisinger, Atlantic City Electric, energy for a changing world, and South Jersey Gas. Welcome to Latino Motion, a weekly interview show highlighting issues impacting New Jersey's Latino community while advancing understanding of Latino cultural heritage and contributions to our society. And here is your host, Bert Lopez.
Buenos dias and welcome to Latino Motion. Domestic violence often occurs alongside child abuse and neglect, which makes prevention of domestic violence critical for child abuse prevention. Joining me to discuss this and more is Valeria Marcos. She is a child abuse and domestic violence advocate. Welcome to Latino Motion.
Thank you, Bert. Thank you for having me today.
Now, I know that you are an advocate. You've been doing this for a very long time. You yourself have been a victim of child abuse and domestic violence. Tell me how critical and how widespread is the problem?
The problem is worldwide, and the problem has been around since the first century. We have never really discussed it in detail probably until the mid-'80s, more in the 1990s, and now in the 21st century, we're getting even further. The problem is very critical. It's a horrific crime against women and children. It's something we need to try to eradicate by 2030, and that's going to take more awareness, education, and more knowledge, and for everyone in the communities across America to know what to do, know the signs, how to report, how to even volunteer for certain hotlines.
Obviously, back in the day, it was often hidden, so to speak, that it was a family secret, right? When it turns to domestic violence, people seem to be a little more open, but there's still families or victims who don't come forward. What do you tell those individuals?
Well, I've been trying to do since 2014 with child abuse, domestic violence, to bring more awareness, get people to speak out, and I had to tell my story too, to make it more personal, and this children and women to know that you can survive it, you can make it in life. It's very difficult. You need help. I believe in therapy. I'm a staunch believer in therapy. I've had it for over 10 years, starting from age 17 to my late 20s. And I asked my mother to take me my junior year of high school because I needed someone to talk to. And I had it all balled up inside of me, and it was driving me crazy, literally. I mean, insane to have all this little secret bottled up from 2.5 years old, 3, and I didn't know what to do with it because no one was talking about it. I didn't even know what child abuse was. I didn't know what domestic violence was. I never heard the word. No one said anything to me. I didn't trust anyone. When you've been abused and your parents don't get along, they fuss and fight and argue physically and mentally and psychological, you don't know what to do. It was like living between a prison and a war zone. We didn't know what was going to happen from day to day with my father, with us, or what was going to attack my mother who was physically sick, and he took advantage of the whole situation.
Often when this happens, people are scared to come forward, and certainly I know that there are more resources available now than there were when you were a youth. Why do you think is the reason why people aren't taking as much advantage of those resources?
I think because we have more advertisement It's in the schools a little bit better. You go to the doctor's office now, they have pamphlets with child abuse, domestic violence, and some doctor's office will ask you, have you ever been a victim of child abuse or sexual abuse? They ask you privately now. And I think it's on the part of the medical profession, I think there should be a questionnaire in every doctor's office, medical primary doctor and or psychiatrist to have questionnaires, and they should know the signs and the red flags, because most of us, we hide it. Body language has to play in it. And if a person trusts you, they're going to eventually confide in you somewhere down the road.
So you feel there are more people coming out
Yes.
than before, and obviously because of those resources that are available.
Right.
Now I know you go into a lot of the churches, and you're also doing some workshops as well. What are some of the things you hear about folks who had been victim, about them coming out?
Well, privately, people have told me in the last 40 years with child abuse and domestic violence, they felt ashamed, they were afraid, they had no one to turn to, they didn't trust anyone, they were fearful they'd been taken away from the home, there's disrupt the whole family unit, they'd be disgraced. Basically, it was just a lot of shame.
And it still goes on, obviously, but
Correct.
hopefully there are some more of these resources. We do have a domestic, a child abuse and domestic hotline numbers, and some more information we could put on the screen. So
Yes.
those individuals who are facing that violence, and certainly the National Domestic Violence Hotline is a great one. We have some local resources as well, like the Women's Shelter.
Avazar on Main Street in Pleasantville, New Jersey. They have therapy, they have shelters, they have information to help women and children and men who've been domestic violence part of it too. There's information available. You can even walk to the emergency room at the hospital, probably get some help. They can give you direction where to go, or just call the Domestic Violence National Hotline, which has 200 languages for everyone to availability
Right.
to speak with a representative to help you.
Yeah, that's a great resource. And certainly, what do you say about the shame? How do people overcome the shame?
The more people like Valerio Marcus globally share their story, talk about it without fear, don't be ashamed of telling your story, because you did nothing wrong. You were a child, or you witnessed your parents' domestic violence, and it flowed to you. It's different. It's so complex
Right.
and complicated that we still have more to learn about domestic violence and how it affects children with the child abuse in the household too. Because anytime children are sitting around witnessing their parents, that puts a lot of fear in them, low self-esteem. They're very confused.
And it does have an impact. We want to talk more about the workshops. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with more Latino Motion.
Latino Motion with Bert Lopez is presented by Latino Motion Public Affairs Media, a New Jersey nonprofit corporation. Join us online at www.latinomotion.tv. Find us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. We encourage your comments and contributions for show topics.
Welcome back to Latino Motion. We continue to discuss domestic violence and child abuse awareness with Valeria Marcus. And we were just talking about the help, various organizations that do help with domestic violence. There's particularly help available as well for those who may be deaf or blind.
Correct. 1-800-787-3224.
You know, one of the things that we discuss is the fact that the people are scared to come out, obviously. And you're a big believer in getting the community involved. How can the community be involved in preventing domestic violence?
Well, the community, first of all, they can come to some of my seminars and panels and listen to the experts, how they deliver the information to learn more knowledge. They can get books at the library and read. They can talk to individuals who know something about domestic violence and child abuse, because it's the same problem, because most people have families and with kids. And the community can, if they have a hunch, someone's being abused or the mother's being taken advantage by the husband or the boyfriend, they need to call 911, let it be investigated. If they see someone getting hurt in the family or in the neighborhood, they need to be a witness and go to court for them so they can get the person temporary restraining order or arrested, convicted, and it's restitution for mothers with children. There's funds available by law, federal laws in the state of New Jersey, where you can get your house paid. If you have to hire a lawyer, that can be paid through the courts. And the New Jersey Civil Rights and the Governor, Attorney General, they take cases to court that they feel can win against the man or whomever it is.
Now, let's talk about the workshops. Obviously, you mentioned the workshops, inviting people to come out to the workshops. You have one coming up on October the 18th at the Atlantic City Public Library. Tell me more about that.
Okay, we have Dr. Naomi Jones, PhD, Jewish Family Services, and asked Naomi to speak about how domestic violence affects children. We have Detective Ann McGlynn, who's going to talk about most likely the cases that she goes on as her job as a Lansing police officer. We have Reverend Raymond Hollis Jr., a Bed Tomorrows. He's going to speak biblically and how it pertains to modern times in 21st century. We have Tamu Lane, who works at Avazar, and she's also a therapist. She's going to speak about her experiences as a survivor of child abuse and domestic violence. And we had Donna DeAndrio. She works at Avazar. She's like a violence prevention supervisor there, and she's going to talk about procedures, how they handle cases, and how people can get help through Avazar.
Yeah, and you mentioned the police officer that's going to be there from Atlantic City. There's a lot of changes, a lot of training the police officers go through now to detect if there has been domestic violence oftentimes, and we hear cases where the police show up, they don't do anything. Do you think that's changed?
Yes. Now, if a policeman goes on domestic violence case, they have to make a report. They have to make a decision if the woman looked like she was harmed physically, to take her to the emergency room. The police officer also has to tell the victim her rights, that she can report it, file a complaint. And if it's a gun involved, they see a gun, they have a right to take the gun. If they search the house and find a weapon, they can arrest the perpetrator, and the officer can call the judge right there and get a temporary, if it's on a weekend, or call the courts to get a temporary restraining order if the victim wants it, and have the man removed, especially if there's a weapon or she's been physically assaulted terribly.
Now, I know that people do go file restraining orders. Is that something you do on your own, or are there agencies that could help you with that? And what role does the police play?
The police officer, if he feels a real threat or sees something there that he doesn't feel comfortable with it, he can make that recommendation and call someone to have the perpetrator removed, most likely to get the temporary restraining order through a judge. And judges, by the way, are always on call if the police officer has to make the call on a Friday night or the Sunday afternoon. It has to be there. However, a victim can also file a temporary restraining order on her own, and she can also call the mother or the girlfriend, can call 911 if she can get in the room safely where the perpetrator is bothering her and her children. She can call her own.
So there's a lot of resources, obviously, a lot more available than when you were growing up and you faced the domestic violence. If a child who's suffering domestic violence at home is listening to this program, what advice do you give them?
I would tell the child to please contact a trusted teacher, clergy, neighbor, or family member and speak with them immediately. Find someone who you find trustworthy and who can really help you out your situation, and you need to tell them everything that's going on in the household so they can really help you and report it and take you to the authorities, and to be bold, because you're not alone and you did nothing wrong, and you want to protect yourself and your mother from the perpetrator, whether it's your father or your mother's boyfriend or whomever.
Great advice. Thank you so much for sharing this information with our audience, and thank you for your courage to come out and talk about this. But we have another segment. We'll be right back with more Latino Motion. Welcome back to Latino Motion. Family members that are caring for loved ones who are facing end of life can benefit from services that are available to them. Joining me are Sandra Gomez and Reverend Robert Velasquez from Angelic Help to tell us more about these services. And you know, it's not just about those services, it's knowing what services are available to them. We'll get into that, but what is hospice?
Hospice is end-of-life care. It is a service that's set up for people that have life-limiting illness and the prognosis is 6 months or less. So we provide a team, which includes a nurse, the medical director, myself, who I'm a spiritual care provider, social worker, home health aide, and an RN.
Obviously, families are struggling through this process all along the way. They need that support and help.
Absolutely.
How much of a barrier is it for the Latino community to seek that kind of help?
Well, in this moment, we have professionals speaking Spanish in the office, so they can call.
We have bilingual staff that provides care, and that not only provides care to the patient, but also provides care for the family, gives them the support that they need.
So who qualifies for the services and what are the services?
The qualifications is that a doctor has referred this patient stating that their prognosis is 6 months or less if the disease takes its normal course. There are all types of illnesses, not just cancer, that fall under that criteria. People can have lung disease, they can have renal disease with their kidneys, they can have cardiac illness, all types of disease where the prognosis is 6 months or less. What is it that we provide? We work as a team. We work as a team to provide care for the whole family. With the patient, we provide medication, we provide durable medical equipment, and things of that nature.
Sandra, you guys actually go into the home to provide those services?
Wherever they call home, a facility, a nursing home, wherever they live with the family, doesn't matter who live with them, doesn't matter the situation of the family. So we always go to where they live and care them on the same
And of
space.
course, you have families who are stressed out. They need a break.
Yeah.
So do you provide that sort of break
Yes.
for them and caring for them?
It's exactly what we do. So we help the family to go through the hard time, being a loved one so sick and is helpless. Nothing can be done, just wait. And nobody knows when it's going to happen.
We provide care in the sense that there's a home health aide that usually comes 2 hours a day, Monday through Friday, sometimes on the weekends. And also a family or a patient and the family is eligible for respite care, which means that if a family member is overwhelmed with providing personal care, that patient is eligible to go for 5 days to a facility where they can be cared for, the family member can get the rest that they need, and they can resume again after that 5 days.
Now, as a reverend, I know you know the answer for this. How important is the spiritual aspect of this?
Absolutely. People need hope. People need hope, and that's part of what we do. We do it holistically. Each discipline provides hope in that they give the patient and the family the help that they need, whether it's psychosocial, whether it's care for the patient, whether it's medication needs that the nurse handles. But there's another important aspect, and that is volunteers. Volunteers are very, very important because oftentimes there's a sense of isolation that a patient feels and that their family member feels. A volunteer helps to fill some of that time. And so we need Latino volunteers.
Who pays?
Hospice care is paid by Medicaid, Medicare, and private insurances.
And we know, Sandra, you know very well too that we do have a large undocumented community. Do you turn away people who don't have insurance?
No, we don't turn away nobody. We always work it out to help those people.
Yeah,
We had a couple patients on there let's say, charity. So we take care of them. We never turn down nobody.
No, that's important to know, particularly for within our community. Tell me, what are some of the success stories that you hear in terms of how you make the family feel?
Some of the success stories deals with a person who is dying, feeling that their family is also being taken care of during this difficult time. They're concerned that his wife or her husband or her children have someone that can provide support for them as they themselves, the patient, is going through the final stages of their life.
So obviously, you do have a phone number and a web page. I'm going to put that up on the screen. But let me ask you, how important is it for those folks who are not taking advantage of those services to take advantage of those services?
It is very important because the kind of comfort and the kind of services that they're going to need at this final stage of their life and helping their family is very, very important.
And it's better to have it when it's available and as soon as possible, because you worry for your loved one to get better or get stable, but you don't really know how to do it. Right. So let us take care of it so we can help you.
There's a helping hand that could help.
We can.
Thank you so much. That's all the time we have.
Thank
you for joining us at home once again here on Latino Motion.
Choose to get your feet wet, to learn more about protecting our environment.
Choose to read minds, to understand the human brain.
Choose to get your hands dirty, to create a masterpiece.
Stockton University offers 50 high-quality academic programs, small class sizes, and affordable tuition. Choose to match your interests and talents at one of New Jersey's nationally ranked universities.
Funding for Latino Motion is provided by Atlanticare, a member of Geisinger. Atlantic City Electric, energy for a changing world. And South Jersey Gas.